Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears and I'll speak to them. I come to very Caesar not to praise him, lying bloody on the steps because we could not save him. If you haven't heard it, check out Mega Ran and my new song, Julius Caesar, featuring Dan Bull, which has my first rhyme on that song is what I always start the podcast with because we recorded that song around the time I started this podcast. We've been playing it on the Mount Nerdcore tour. What's up, y'all? It is Monday, May 13th. This is episode 37. It's your boy, MC Lars, coming at you from Atlanta, Georgia. We finish up the tour. We got a few more shows with MC Frontalot, Mega Ran, and Schaefer the Dark Lord. Tonight, Monday, May 13th, we play Smith's Old Bar in Atlanta. Then we go to Gainesville, home of Less Than Jake. We play the High Dive on May 14th, a great venue I've played a lot. Then, May 15th, we play West Palm Beach, respectable street. We finish the tour May 16th in the Orlando suburb of Winter Park at the Geek Easy, to quote Schaefer in our promo video. Then, check it out. June 8th in Boston, I play with Big D and the Kids Table at Brighton Music Hall. I got my whole band for that show, so be sure to check that out. We're doing the Robot Kill Songs 10-year anniversary year, doing a lot of shows celebrating that album. June 15th, I play Underground Arts in Philadelphia with Word Burglar and MC Frontalot. I just can't get away from that guy. No, I love him. Frontalot, I love him. Then, June 29th, I play Warped Tour in Atlantic City with my band. Then, July 5th, I play Anime Midwest with Mega Ran and some other great artists. I've never been out there, so it's exciting that they're flying me out. Today's episode is brought to you by Christopher, Andrew, and Rhiannon on the Patreon, some of our old supporters, and some of our new supporters, Chris, Reagan, and Eric. Thank you all. If you want to learn how to support the show and get 2 new MC Lars tracks a month, go to patreon.com/MC Lars. This week I have a song coming out about Yoshi called How to Train Your Yoshi. Been taking a lot of the patrons' ideas and turning them into songs. I just did a song about Jack the Ripper, and be sure to check that out. So, speaking of villains and heroes, today's episode is with YTCracker. Now, YTCracker is one of the original nerdcore rappers. I'm sure a lot of the audience is aware of his music. I did an album with him called the Digital Gangster LP. He did an album called the Nerd Rap Entertainment System, which inspired a lot of people, including myself, Mega Ran, a lot of the chip hop artists. And on this episode, we talk about Bryce's trouble he got into with the law. We talk about some of his political beliefs that I don't necessarily agree with, but we talk about, how we can find a middle ground and try to find understanding in the world. We talk about how things like hacking elections and cybersecurity and surveillance, all these things he's been rapping about for 15 years are now more prominent than ever. We talk about the movie he helped score called The Hacker Wars, which I really recommend. It's about Anon and all that stuff. And he did a bunch of music for that. And so it's great sitting down with YTCracker because I only see that guy these days like for a few hours every year. It's really rare when I get to hang out with him. I went to his apartment in Beverly Hills and hung out with his family, and it was great. So this is my episode with YTCracker. Thank you all for coming to see us on the Mount Nerdcore tour. Thanks to my tour mates. Thanks to the Patreon supporters. And hope to see you at one of the upcoming shows. And we're going to end this episode with Oneonta, which is a song with YTCracker, Frontalot, and myself from the Digital Gangster LP. It was the first song we wrote for that album. I thought it would be appropriate to end the episode with that introspective flavor. It's your friend MC Lars, thanking y'all, and here is the interview with Bryce Case Jr. That's his real name. It's YTCracker. So last night I saw this movie, and it's called Citizen Kane. And when I was parking the car to come see you, I was thinking, Citizen Case, Bryce Case Jr., a man of great fame, incredible discography that's untouchable, a great live show, who was one of the Gen 1 nerdcore rappers who's still putting out great music, who still performs, who's got an amazing family, and he's got a dark side and a light side. and we're here in his spot in Beverly Hills. What's up, Bryce?
Well, how you doing, MC Lars? What's going on?
I know this is early for you to be up at 11 a.m. on a Sunday.
It is a little early. Normally, I'm still in dreamland by now. But if you're coming over, I gotta get up. I'm sipping tea, so we're good.
The last time I saw you was, what was it, MagFest, probably?
I believe so. That sounds like... So that would have been almost a year ago.
It doesn't feel like a year, does it?
It doesn't. We usually do that, though. It's like some boomerang things. We see each other just passing by, and it's wonderful. It's good.
I have to thank you for a lot of things, but one of them is the Digital Gangster LP, which we made very quickly.
Very quickly.
And I had been, my Robot Kills record had taken me years, and you and I put our heads together and we're like, let's do this project. Let's release it quickly. You coded this thing that was like a precursor to Kickstarter or Patreon where people kind of crowdfunded and pre-ordered it, which we broke even instantly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was before all that. I forgot about that. That's true. Yeah.
It's fall. It came out October of 2008. So
2008, yeah.
10 years ago, man.
And we were kind of doing the little press junkets there with all the internet personalities at the time, like Irina and what was the Mr. Internet show? It was there was that Martin Sargent who went on his show. Yeah.
These early people and like that record. It's interesting. It's like I see it as kind of like not to be too lofty, but it was like the chronic of nerdcore of that era because everyone was on that record, and all those people who have still kept doing stuff have done pretty great.
Yeah. K-Flay? I mean, is that what you're alluding to? But everybody, and that was a great record because we didn't have any of the song concepts. We didn't have any of the beats. We just wound up in San Francisco and then kind of did it all at the Toronto Brothers as we went along, which is a really cool process. I think it's almost like a hackathon, like a song challenge sort of thing. And it was codified and turned into an album.
And we had that, we stayed with my friend near there, and we just were on a crazy schedule. And shout out to Jim specifically and Brandon because they kept up with us.
They did.
So one of us would be on the porch writing a verse, and the other one would be in there tracking. And it was just like, I'd never worked with anyone whose energy and talent forced me to grow lyrically. You always would come with quick, complicated cadences and flows and concepts. So I was like, that album definitely made me a better rapper. And touring with you with Frontalot and Chris, around that time, made me a better rapper. So I have you to thank for that, man. And I don't say it enough, but you are a huge part of my success.
Thank you. I would say the same thing with you. I think every other artist you work with kind of sharpens you a little bit, and you definitely had that same effect on me. It was great. A lot of the kind of the hype man pair rapping that we did, we got that shit down to a science to a point where I don't know. It was very fluid, awesome to watch, awesome to be a part of. Be elevated my game too, so I appreciate that. Thank you. No,
dude, and our shows were always really great,
very great,
because we learned each other's stuff. When you play solo, I always want to run up and just do Surge Runner and all your. I want to hype your lyrics and sometimes I just should jump up there and grab the mic.
Always,
right?
Yeah. You have a total invitation to do that, I've invited a lot of fans to come up and do it with me and stuff. And I mean, it's one of those experiences, especially, as a rapper, I enjoy it, but, as a fan, even because I'm a fan of you, I'm a fan of Raheem's, it's good that when we sort of include each other on our stuff. And so, yeah, even if there are songs that we're not on, it's good to share them as if we are. So I'm with that.
We're a crew. It's like Anticon was the precursor to us, those indie and Def Jux and Rhymesayers.
Yeah.
All these dudes dudes and women who inspired us when we started, but no one wanted to really invite the nerdcore guys to the party. Someone said something I remember this was so cruel. In Spin, some article on nerdcore was these guys won't be at Coachella. They're never even in the tent in the parking lot of Coachella. They're not even 10 miles away playing on the street on the way to Coachella. So we built our own Coachella.
Yeah, we did. And that wound up failing miserably too, but wasn't our fault. But I think it's so...
we went to Amsterdam, dude. We played that festival in Amsterdam.
We did.
That was crazy.
That was fun. That was a lot of fun. There's another story I'll have to tell you later. But
you can't tell it on the mic?
I just won't tell it on the mic because it's putting something on blast. But
fair enough.
You'll find it funny.
Okay.
But the thing about rap now is it's very, there's a lot more nerdy references and stuff than ever before, and I think that whole struggle and plight of being a nerd as it was when we were kids, now it's really not even there anymore. I think kids are still getting made fun of and bullied and everything like that, but the stigma of being a computer nerd or a lit nerd or something is not as great as it used to be. So there's some of the stuff I think that we have that's a little bit lost in translation as far as, you know, the bullied stuff sticks, but now it's actually cool to know computers, and everyone has a supercomputer in their pocket and this stuff. So if you know how to work those devices, then you're, you know, awesome. But there was a point where they weren't as, you know, proliferated into the public. So the nerd life has done some interesting things. But yeah, nerdcore and its subject matter has weaseled its way into the mainstream a lot more, and so that's been interesting to see.
I mean, and I saw Weird Al Friday, and we were having lunch. You were talking about like how 2006, you know, when he dropped White Nerdy, was like this sea change that he said he kind of rode this tidal wave where the culture of nerds, suddenly everyone realized, oh, these are the people who create all the cool stuff we love, and these are the architects of the culture. And I was talking on the earlier episode with this editor, Eamon Dolan, about how hip hop kind of made us familiar and ready for what the internet would become, right? Like Bambaataa sampling Kraftwerk, or like the subway cars with graffiti, and then hip hop moving across the world. Like it taught us to think in a very cut and paste postmodern way and be accepting of different cultures, hopefully. And you were the genesis of that, man. You were like in the nexus of those two cultures. And I always loved how you took Tupac's Thug Life and made it Nerd Life.
Nerd Life. Well, and the one thing that in defense of Tupac, I think that he was a nerd. If you look at his older interviews and stuff, like he's almost effeminate, like something that would, you know, made fun of, but he was super into drama and reading and all these pursuits that one would consider kind of like geek and outcast. And then as he grew up, I mean, obviously he always had that social justice in him, you know, fighting for the oppressed and, you know, especially in the African American culture. But it's one of those life imitates, or art imitates life sort of things, where he became something that I don't really think that was really him. That, you know, for the cameras, he was this brash, you know, thug and, you know, daring people to shoot him and stuff. But, you know, you're talking about a well-read, very intelligent, articulate man who, I mean, under other circumstances, he might have found himself a professor at Harvard or something like that. So even Tupac, you know, I think became, you know, had he embraced that, just that side of himself and only stuck to that, then, you know, who knows what he would have been doing today. But
he'd probably be alive.
Probably be alive. Yeah, I mean, we haven't had too many shootings within the nerdcore community. I count 0, I think. So we're good.
But, you know, on that topic, touring with you, we'd stay with fools who had like automatic weapons that they'd be like flashing around, blazed and drunk out of their minds.
Yeah.
And I'd be in the door with a push button lock, like hoping I wake up.
That guy died. That guy whose house we stayed at with all those guns. Like,
rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Yeah, he's dead.
What happened?
Not by a gunshot. He was making large quantities of drugs, and he had like these vats of like acid and bad stuff, and the fumes killed him. But yeah,
that's tragic.
It is tragic, but like you choose live by the sword, die by the sword thing, and that's where you're saying about being the nexus to this like juxtaposition of you know, gangster and digital gangster. I probably did. Especially now, I'm like older. I'm more of like a gray beard, and I'm OG type thing. So that, you know, really going to the guns isn't my first thought anymore. But there was a point in time where I was very violent natured or something. I had a big chip on my shoulder.
Well, there were many. I mean, just for pure candid honesty, we'd be rapping on stage, and later I would learn you had a gun in your waistband, like ready in case something happened. And like, so I always never wanted to piss you off because
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying that like it was a very hip hop moment. You're not strapped right now.
No, I'm not strapped right now. Okay. No, but it was just.
But you probably have weapons in your house.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't have weapons here.
Okay.
Don't tell. Well, maybe I do, but the
plead the fifth.
Plead the fifth. The thing is, with me, so the fact that I have some of the weirdest stalkers and just very off kilter people in my sphere of influence.
Yes, you did.
And so,
and I met them all.
you met quite a few of them, yeah. And so, as a result, like you would know why I carried a gun, just in case any of these, like, those fools tried to step. So there was, I mean, it wasn't just doing it for the sake of hip hop. I really did feel threatened at some points that I may have to use this thing. So
right,
yeah, but
and it was like this rolling with you. I felt like gave me this gangster credibility that as I got older, I don't know, man. I'd never met anyone like you in the world. There's no one like you in the world. And your backstory. So back in the day, this is ridiculous. When you were a minor, you hacked NASA's website, right? And
among other things. Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Can you, or is it like?
Yeah, it's totally. Okay. It's just I found it. I just hacking became like a drug to me, and I just really fell in love with it, and being where you weren't supposed to be, and it was just fascinating. So I sort of was just growing and growing to more sizable targets, more visibility. I really wanted people to, I don't know. So it's like web graffiti. Graffiti is like one of those elements of hip hop type thing, and it's getting up. And so, if you're doing like some drainage ditch in the middle of nowhere, no one's ever going to see your piece. So what I was doing is I was defacing like big federal websites like NATO and FAA and NASA and like Honda, Nissan.
And you were a high school kid.
And I was a high school kid, yeah. But I was doing it for the purposes of, I mean, really, like, I would go to school and then I would come home and then I would just get on my computer and start, killing government websites.
Did your parents know you were like up to this?
Nah, they didn't.
How were they not? How were they? So they weren't responsible that it was the internet dial-up was through their names?
No, by that time I had DSL in my house. I paid for myself. Like,
so they could have been in trouble, huh?
No, not really.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like, I guess there's probably some stretch where they could asset forfeiture, things that were used in the crime. I mean, they did take my hard drive and they took a bunch of discs and stuff for discovery. But the biggest thing was when I was just kept going and going and going, and I was a part of a couple bigger hacker groups at the time. We hacked like the Army, the Navy, like everybody. Just didn't matter. But to me, it was this. It says it's graffiti, it's just getting up. And then there was one of our guys in this other group that I was a part of. He broke into a satellite system called Miser, and he tried to delete the logs on the server, and instead of deleting the logs, he deleted everything like on that box. And so with machines that are critical, they would have these logs that would print out in real time, kind of like these. So
was he was hacking the satellite or like hardware that was linked to the satellite?
He didn't even know what the box he was on. He's a 15-year-old kid, and
right.
Just like it was a government box, and so he's just goofing off. But the thing was that the logs, we didn't have cloud backups and stuff at that time. The infrastructure wasn't there, so the idea was he just RMRF'd the root of the machine, but the logs were printing in real time. So when they went back forensically to see
what is RMRF? Sorry, I don't know that.
That's a Unix command to delete everything without asking me yes or no, and recursively. The -R is for recursive and -F is for.
He was trying to cover up his trails.
He was trying to cover his tracks, but instead of covering up his tracks, he deleted everything. But the logs printed out in real time, and so forensics investigators were able to go and look just at the logs, the hard copy logs they had, and they saw what happened. And then one of the NASA admins, his name is Space Dog, he got on our IRC server and he got in our channel and he says, OIG, which is the Office of the Inspector General, like NASA has a law enforcement arm where they carry guns and they have badges and stuff. And he was like, they're looking for all you. And I'm telling you, they got paper on all you, blah, blah. Like,
how did he know it was linked to that?
Because the defacement that was put up had our IRC channel, like shouts to the homies and IRC channel and everything like that. On, you know, again, no one. This was before 9/11 and all that, so I mean, it wasn't like you're gonna get your hands cut off. But
now, though,
don't do
gone
it
forever.
Yeah, it's a bad idea. So Sheepdog basically came on and he told us.
Was he? So that was his code name.
That was his handle. That's what he logged into IRC as. So he had a handle. Like
he was on the IRC anyway.
He was on IRC.
Why did he tip you off?
I don't know, but he basically just said that, you know, you have an opportunity to turn yourself in. It's not like he had the authority to do this or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure that he was higher up there in the echelons of NASA administration, because he knew what was going on, and that's what he just said. They have paper on all you. Like, you can turn yourself in or get your door kicked in. And so he gave me a number to call. I called him and I admitted who I was. I never was really that careful about tracks, but the whole thing that was crazy is there was 7 different federal agencies and I was hacked Texas Department of Public Safety, which is like where they issue their police department stuff.
Were you living in Colorado Springs?
I was living in Colorado Springs at the time. I hacked every school district in Colorado. I hacked the police department in Colorado. So,
especially War Games with Matthew Broderick.
Yeah. In the same city.
Right.
Then, so what was the bureaucracy, which is nuts, is that OIG made first contact with me. But when I finally got the discovery...
And OIG is NASA's...
Office of the Inspector General.
Okay,
yeah, so they actually flew out to me. The thing was, is that at the same time, there were 7 different agencies that had an open file on me. And if you know how the government bureaucracy is hard to talk to each other, that they were like, look, the FBI might still kick in your door, and you won't have anything here because we just took it. But, you know, they had to get word out to all the other agencies that OIG had the collar, I guess you could say, and for them to stand down. Luckily, none of that happened. But, yeah, I found out later, like, in my discovery, there's literally just reams of paper in it, and it's all from these different agencies and the various amount of information. I was being followed by the Colorado Springs Police Department. They had a detective Bill DeHart. He was following me around. You know, and
the
everything.
FBI had a file on
FBI had an open file, and they were surveilling me. But yeah, OIG, I let them in my house. They didn't have to kick the door down or anything like that.
So if you had not been a minor, you would have seen some serious time, maybe. It's
a possibility. I mean, there were people that I was working with that were overage at the time. But that cyber attacks, that's the whole thing, is on these sites, when I deface them, I would put, you know, admins need to learn their stuff, and it's better to show people that than tell them that. Like, I can tell you, like, hey, you know, your stuff is insecure. You may or may not believe me, but, you know, you show them, it lights a fire under them to make sure that they've fixed it. And
yeah, I remember seeing this news piece on you. You had like it was like, case of crash, throw your hands in the air.
That was like a trademark. Like, it was, it was.
And you said, I'm a patriot. I'm just trying to make America a better place.
Yeah.
Well, where did you, that was your trademark, but you put that on the NASA site or the FBI's?
Everybody. Like,
they all got that HTML.
They all got, well, I had different, I had, you know what a MIDI file is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had these MIDI files that would play, and then I would rewrite the lyrics of the songs to like some hacker stuff, like a Weird Al type thing. But like, I've been messing with servers. But anyway, they just had these different pieces. But the whole thing was just this rising awareness. And, you know, I said, if we're this vulnerable from cyber attack from a 17-year-old, you know, kid who's doing this in his spare time, imagine a state actor. And here it is, you know, almost 20 years later, and it's a huge topic in the media.
It's the topic.
It is a huge, it's deciding elections, it's making kings, it's doing all kinds of things. So that it was just a prescient thought I had back then that, you know, this is where the battleground's going to be in the future.
But this is why you are the true nerdcore, because hip hop is about doing something with nothing, right? Talk about that a lot on this podcast, this idea of circumlocution. You speak around using the tools you have to say old things in a new way.
True.
Right?
True,
and so you were using and having the skills, show and prove, right? You had the skills, the computer skills, and the knowledge of like the cultural connection with hip hop as defacing and leaving your mark, but for good. And, you know, as much as you paint yourself as a dark horse and you've, you know, maybe done some things that you wouldn't do again. I feel like you're a good guy, Bryce. Would you agree, or are you a good guy or a bad guy?
I always describe myself as chaotic neutral, like it's the Dungeons and Dragons alignment, and so generally, like you have your lawful good, you have your chaotic evil, and I'm chaotic neutral. That I would say that for the most part, I impose my own moral code to things, and so as a result, my moral compass, however it points north on certain things, that I'll justify breaking into this server, which is the illegal thing, to amplify my message. Then that's, you would not consider that lawful good. You would not consider that in the stream of law. But I pretty much, there's things that I do. If I was starving on the streets, homeless or whatever, I'd have to find some sort of hustle, and if I have to grift to do it, to feed my family, then I'm going to do that. So, luckily I'm not at that point, but that's the chaotic neutral thing has always really rang true with me, because I think that there's a lot of things that just wind up by default winding up in the public good, or things that maybe have a positive net outcome.
Sure.
But the means to which I do that, like Robin Hood or something, robbing the tax takers to give to the taxpayers, sort of thing, is, from the taxpayers' perspective, it's great, but from the government, they're like, this guy sucks. Like,
I'm sure you're on hella lists.
I'm on a few lists, I'm sure. Yeah.
We started this conversation talking about Citizen Kane and Citizen Case, and it's an interesting story of this guy who kind of inherits the world and starts out, spoiler alert, he starts out good and becomes kind of like not so good. And I feel like maybe that's the opposite for you.
Well, have you seen it? It was based on William Randolph Hearst,
exactly.
He was a publishing magnate, and that's the thing is, Rosebud, is the spoiler. I don't want to give the spoiler out, but I just did.
Fast forward 30 seconds if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Or if you haven't seen The Simpsons with Burns.
If you haven't seen Citizen Kane, but it's a tale. Like, there's a man. I think it's considered the greatest film of all time.
Yeah.
By a great number of people, but that the thing that you want is his wagon. His
sled, because it was
sled. Yeah,
his connection to his childhood before this magistrate took him away. The mom, they found oil on the yard, right? So on their property. So in Colorado,
yeah.
So the mom wanted him to have a better life, and the dad was kind of abusive, and the sled was this metonymy for his childhood. Right?
Yeah. It represented the innocent times or simpler times or whatever.
You were about to explain that, and I just cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
I said wagon instead of sled.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I was looking at something, but yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly.
So that sled, I mean, to extend the metaphor to you, I think it's like your rhyme skills. Like, it's this thing that you being a rapper, there are a lot of hackers, but you and David from Dualcore are like a few of the really successful rapper hackers that I know. I'm sure there are tons more.
I think that's it. Well, I mean, there's Vapor. There's a few other guys that are doing it, but what's fascinating to me is that I'm in the twilight of my life. I'm 36. I think you were. We're getting older.
What's your birthday? I'm October 6th, 82.
I'm August 23rd, so I'm like a little bit older. But the biggest thing that it baffles me is that there hasn't been some 19-year-old equivalent of Lil Pump or something coming along in the hacker rap scene and is making a gigantic splash. That we are, Dualcore and I are pretty much the alpha and omega of this movement, and I've been trying to find Padawans for a long time, like who to pass the torch to and who to get. There's this kid Armand who's sort of trying to do stuff, but it's really good because the subject matter that I write about, no one can bite it really, because you have to have a very deep knowledge,
so to speak.
Bite, B-Y-T. The whole content of our songs that really Dualcore and I can only bite off each other. That there's only so many ways to rap about doing drugs, and people are finding them every day. But in the computer world, it's good because the music that we create is very authentic, and there's really no one that can fake that type of thing.
Right.
So, but that's where you have to. So it's just like you with your vast knowledge of literature, you would have to dedicate your life to two pursuits, which is musicianship and also, older literature and stuff. So it requires this educated background. So you have a barrier to entry to get into this sort of thing if you want to do it or not. But I really would love to see some 18-year-old, 19-year-old kids, doing what I did, coming up and then just knocking me off the throne so I don't have to worry about this anymore. Because then when that happens, it's good. But
yeah, and that's interesting. Like, what's more terrifying than a kid in his or her room with bots influencing world history, right? That's like that's the real thug life.
That is.
And maybe these kids being a rapper, you put yourself on blast or you brag about it. Like, you hear stories about rappers who like describe their crimes in detail.
Self-snitching.
Yeah. Then it's like, I don't know. I mean, I learned a lot from your songs about technology and the world, and like Bitcoin Baron, you were up on that early with the cryptocurrency.
Yeah. And that wasn't even the first songs I did that mentioned Bitcoin were in 2012, like the year before, like part of my Earthbound albums and stuff. But yeah, so that's another thing. The Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency stuff, by being in the technological fields, like you have your finger on the pulse of all this crazy new technology and stuff. And cryptocurrency as a cypherpunk spoke really, really hard to me because of it sounds like a cult when people talk about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. I think a lot of people really don't truly understand it, but I love disruptive technologies. I love things like Bitcoin and the things that it could do for society. A lot of our problems that we have with voting and notary public and titling deeds, all sorts. It solves all these problems, and people are just kind of looking at it like money, and that's part of it. But it's really more the technology itself, the underlying technology. It has a lot of applications, some of which we don't even know yet. It's still very much in its infancy. So when I did it, it was super proto. It was very, very little, and now it's grown to something where I remember when CNBC was every minute was talking about Bitcoin.
So you've done well off crypto, I imagine, with being an early adopter.
I've done very well, yeah, and like luckily the majority of this stuff happened in my like late 20s and 30s and stuff. So as a result, I would say that when I was younger, I was much more brash and like traditional rappy, flashing cash all the time and doing
like you'd be rapping and you'd throw $1,000 into the audience just
yeah.
for fun at these conventions.
Yeah, that was.
Everyone's like, times. Is that real? Yes, he just threw $1,000.
Yeah, that was good.
Or LOL money with that
LOL
YouTube
money.
video where you're just counting your money.
Count money, yeah. I'm not as brazen with my. I don't flex that hard anymore. I think that's funny to see too on Vine and Instagram. It's everyone just flex, but there's no point to it. And part of the cool thing about Bitcoin and everything is no one knows how much you have. Unless they know my addresses and know my private keys like this. So it's a very difficult thing for people to trace, and if you know what you're doing, and so you can anonymously live fairly well if you want to.
I remember that one year at South by Southwest, they had Bitcoin ATMs.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Like, so the question is figuring out the best way to convert it to other assets is like part of the skill, right? Because I'm sure like the Bitcoin ATMs took a really huge commission.
They do take big commissions. One of the biggest problems that it solves is remittance. Like instead of having to pay Western Union $15 to send 100 or something, it just depends on the fees of the network at the time. You can send up to, however much you want, millions of dollars or $1 or whatever. So the advantage as far as being able to send money anywhere, to anyone anywhere is really awesome. But where you're seeing, I don't think the use case is made well here in the first world in America. It's places where the country's having huge deflationary or inflationary currencies, or huge inflationary currencies, like Venezuela has been a good case study for it. Greece, because the whole the value store of Bitcoin being an international currency, borderless, decentralized, you're able to have this medium of exchange across anywhere. And that's the thing is if you walk into a gas station here in America with a €5 note and you try to buy something with it, the cashier is going to turn you away. But that's perfectly legal currency in a bunch of countries. Like, why won't they take this thing? And so it's because they haven't adopted the euro as an official currency. So the more traction that Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency gets on these international levels, then it's going to be much easier to walk into a 7-Eleven with some Bitcoin and be able to buy something or whatever cryptocurrency happens to win out. But that's the biggest thing, is it's just about acceptance and adoption with it. So the more people that are willing to accept cryptocurrency as a payment method, if I want to pay you a Bitcoin to mow my lawn and you'll take it, or you'll take, if I give you this piece of paper or I, give you a cup of tea or whatever, it's just a barter system. That's all currency is.
Right. And like people who I remember it took a minute for people to accept that PayPal was like legit, right? Syncing it with your bank accounts and trusting that. And of course that has more sort of like the government's watching what you do with PayPal.
It's traditionalist. Yeah. But now most financial transactions exist as just numbers in a computer. That no one is taking a wheelbarrow full of cash down to Wells Fargo when they buy their house. I mean, maybe somebody is, but that all your money that's in a bank right now is just ones and zeros. I mean, somebody just hits the delete key and you're broke, or whatever. That's just the rub of it. So it's a little bit more of the concept is not that difficult to grasp.
Right.
All your money is on a debit card or something like that. So
and it's like, the real value as an indie musician is who you know and your passion and your creativity. And it seems like that's a lot of the way people like you have survived so well, both as a musician and in this changing world. Like your knowledge and your connections and the people you trust is such an asset. It's everything, right?
I think more than ever in today's world, and it's where I believe in karma and how that manifests itself, is that the people that you meet along the way, everybody you see on the way up, you see on the way down type thing, and there's people that burn each other and there's people that try to get rich quick and they'll screw people over and scam and do those types of things. But where you wind up reaping what you sow is in this day and age. Bill Cosby, for instance, got away with all the stuff that he was doing for years and years. It was this open secret. But then now it's like you can take a video of Hannibal Buress in a club and then it blows the lid on this entire scandal type thing. It's hard to hide from, your actions. If you're truly a terrible person, that stuff will come to light. And so this day and age, I find that the trust networks that we build as human beings and how we leverage them is more under the microscope than ever. And it gets around. I mean, people that like MC Chris, for instance, like I see like people when they comment about him, it's a very polarizing topic that some people are like, oh, I saw him do this at a show and it was terrible. And then you have 100 people chime in and yeah, but he also signed my dying friend's shirt. And then you have a million people there that are saying this stuff. So, whatever the accuracy of those comments are, you basically are getting this whole democratic input on the social credit of a human being. And I think that, say, by and large, anybody who's ever met you, you always see, met Lars in Manchester, right bloke or whatever. that you have a very joyful and good moral disposition. So that reflects itself on
you have that too, and you've created goodwill for yourself, and this is a great departure to our next topic. So when I talked to Raheem, he talked about the two things that kind of made him realize he could do the Mega Man raps. The first was the Cocoa Brothers Super Brooklyn. And then he talks about how when he heard Nerd Rap Entertainment System, it blew his mind. And that was like if not the defining rap album for him, one of his most important rap albums. And, Mega Ran has like eclipsed us all and kills it. And he does great. And did you ever think that record would like motivate and inspire so many people?
No, I didn't. And then he's told me that story multiple times and said it on stage and stuff. Super humbling. Like, it's very crazy to be a part of his musical journey. But the thing that you can't separate Raheem from how hard he works. He's honestly the hardest working artist I think I know in that respect. Like, he's constantly on top of his game. Like, he's great with the merchandising and his exposure and how he markets himself. And then he's also, like, he really loves the WWE, and he's been able to do a lot of stuff with them. And who knows, he may win the Intercontinental title one day. It'd be great to see him actually get in the ring and do some cool stuff. But Raheem, yeah, that's a very humbling and amazing thing, the fact that he did that, or the fact that it was an inspiration to him. But he's taken that to levels that I never saw possible, I would think. And so I said it's kind of like Johnny Cash when he covered Hurt by Trent Reznor or whatever, and Trent Reznor made this thing where he said, like, that's his song now. I don't really, like, I feel that way. Raheem really has made that chip hop thing
right,
something to be feared. Yeah,
like what Weird Al is to parodies, Mega Ran is to chip hop.
I would say, yeah, it's a great way to say it.
And it's interesting. Turned me on to him. You introduced me to him. You like told me about him, and you told me to check for him. And at Nerdapalooza, you played with him at Nerdapalooza. When you, and then, you were an introduction to so many people in the scene. And when you made that Nerd Rap Entertainment System album, like, that was before you'd heard Frontalot, right?
It was actually
before you'd heard Chris.
Before I heard Chris, like, the music I was making, I was doing it in this little, because a lot of my earlier songs, like my first song was called "Spamming for Cash," and it was about, like, sending out emails, pornographic emails, and making money off AOL online users. And so the majority of the songs that I was making in the past were just supposed to be funny for a small group of people, and then they started to kind of gain traction. And then Nerd Rap Entertainment System, there was this board called General Mayhem, and it was prior to Digital Gangster, my forum that I made. But General Mayhem was a spinoff of Hard Forum, and it was kind of just this goofy forum. But I released NES on that on that board, posted a link to it, and then from there it just got all this kind of media attention. Not like
the Nerd Rap Entertainment System album.
The Nerd Rap Entertainment System album, yeah. And
you produced that yourself, right?
I produced it all myself. I did all the beats. Actually, no, all but one of the beats. Silent John did the View Source beat or whatever. But yeah, I did it in Reason, and I just was taking NSF, like, sound, like, pieces of NSF files, which are the Nintendo sound files, and sampling them and putting them into Rex, and made that album. But it's very, just lo-fi, but it was just this mashup of nostalgic culture and nerd stuff. Yeah. And
it was cool because what was special about that record is you'd sample something, but you wouldn't, be like, sample Mario and be like, this is my Mario rap.
Right.
Like Surge Runner is an example of a great song where you're nostalgic about coding in the 90s and drinking Surge.
Yeah,
and we could probably still perform that together. Like, that's
easy.
So stuck in our brains.
Yeah. That one's never going away. That one's etched in my brain.
And you brought Surge back, maybe.
I mean, I would say I had a small hand in it, if anything. But it's just interesting now because for a period there, people were always bringing Surge to my shows, so I had more Surge than I could possibly ever drink in a lifetime. It was awesome. And there was this dude, actually, before Surge had been brought back. It was a show, we were on tour, and this guy, I think we were at the merch booth, and he came up to me and he was like, "Hey, I got something for you in my car, and you need to come out and check it out." And I was like, "All right, cool." So I just, go out there, and he bought like a bottle of Surge off eBay, a 2-liter bottle, for whatever, $100 or something, because it was so rare back then.
From like the 90s?
Yeah, and then we popped it open. It was like popping open a bottle of old champagne type thing. There's a video of it I have, but it was just real funny because, the fact that, fans go to that length. We have a toast with old
What did it
Surge.
taste like?
Tasted fine. It was a little flat, but I mean, it tasted like Surge. So, yeah, the classics never die.
When it came back, it had kind of more of an orange soda flavor, I think. I don't know. They changed it a little bit. Am I wrong?
I think your palate changed because I remember it. It's pretty... It was pretty accurate, at least as far as I remember. But the thing is that it's a quick path to diabetes now. So I don't think it's something I can just have in my diet every day.
I stopped soda too. I drink Diet Coke sometimes, but being dudes in our 30s, like we ate like beasts on the road. We were just reckless doing other stuff too. It's funny, man, because it's like, yeah, this is jumping ahead, but then like years later, we reconnected. We made the Digital Gangster album. We did that tour with Front, and there was a moment there when we were in Minnesota where the whole genre could have had a Buddy Holly moment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I remember we were at the Minnesota Department of Transportation. They'd kind of helped us and stuff.
That was cool.
And you were walking around singing hymns of praise to the spam god. And I think about that now, like you kept saying, it could have been curtains, bro. Could have been curtains. Let's talk about in detail what happened, the physics of that accident. And this is, we don't talk about it a lot, but this was traumatic, dude. And this was like,
yeah,
I'm a religious guy and I believe in God and stuff. And I think that was a moment where my faith was really reinforced.
It was tested.
Call it what you want, but that was like crazy how we all survived being almost dying in that day.
Yeah. Mark, the keyboardist I forgot what his little handle was, but he was Frontalot's, he was like this higher on temp keyboardist for the tour. And he was at the wheel of our van with the trailer in it, and the roads were just icy as heck. And we were in the left lane, just cruising along
in Minnesota, and we had left. Can I interrupt? Sorry for
yeah.
We stayed at Brandon's dad's house. Brandon had to fly back to New York or something for some family stuff, and so we crashed with Brandon's dad, who was a sweetheart. We left early because we had to get to Iowa.
Yeah, and Brandon's Black Lotus. He's Frontalot's bassist.
Brandon, yeah, and we were staying there, and I remember Mark was driving, and it was a van in the trailer. He hadn't driven ever. And he was from Russia, and he was like new to the country.
Somewhere. I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember exactly where he's from.
And I remember we were driving, and he went over a curb, and the whole van bounced. And like I was, 26, 27, so I was kind of like, no, I was 25, and I was a little bit laissez-faire with my seatbelt. I was watching Family Guy on my laptop, and he hit a curb, and the whole van shook. I'm like, probably should put on my seatbelt. This happened right before the story you can tell. I don't know if you knew that story, but like I had just put on my seatbelt because I was like, this fool cannot drive that.
I was in front.
You were in front?
I was in the front seat.
Okay, so what happened? So break it down.
Yeah. So then,
wow,
I'm pulling it back. Yeah, but basically the freezing point of the ice had just the whatever happened to the temperature, like it had just kind of gone from being wet roads, it was snowing, but from wet roads to icy. And
he changed lanes right when that happened.
Yeah,
right?
and he changed lanes, and then basically we had this gigantic trailer filled with all of our music equipment in the back of it, and it started to teeter, and you just felt the van sliding.
Like boxes probably tumbled in there.
Yeah, well, it could have been any type of just weight shift. And then luckily we had there's a device that basically makes sure that the trailer stays attached to the van, and luckily that safety device failed. But the trailer, like we wound up in the middle of it was a median, but one of those dip medians, and we wound up in there, and the trailer had flipped and broke and dumped
like a tin can.
Dumped all of our musical equipment like all over the interstate and the median and stuff. And that's the cat feeder. Oh. It's automatic.
And then like Frontalot posters in that flying in the air like Christmas.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
And what was crazy was we were on the left lane. It was rush hour. There were cars everywhere, but for some reason there wasn't a car in the right lane. There wasn't a car on the two lanes to our right, and because the median, we couldn't have gone into the other lane. So we spun like 6 times on the freeway, and the trailer snapped off and flew. Yeah. Luckily didn't hit a car. And I remember looking at Nagin, who was Frontalot's friend who was doing the documentary. I remember looking at her face, and that whole moment felt like an hour, and she was like crying. And I was like, oh, this is serious. Like at first I was like, Mark, what did you do?
Yeah, what did you do?
But we kept spinning, and eventually we just stopped. We didn't flip.
Yep.
We didn't go into oncoming traffic. We could have gone into front of a truck.
Didn't happen.
And,
yeah.
And it, like you said, it would have been curtains.
I probably should, the seriousness of the situation, I probably didn't explain the gravity of the situation. But yeah, that was it. It's like, yeah, we're spinning like a top. Like, yeah, we could have been sideswiped by anybody.
Could have flipped.
The conditions of the road were bad, so anybody slamming on their brakes, they probably wouldn't have stopped close enough to not hit us.
We didn't cause any other accidents.
It was just us.
Jeez.
Yeah, so, but there's a video on my YouTube that I have right after that where I showed like just the destruction and damage of, what had happened. But we wound up getting insurance checks from it, which was good.
They quit. They were able to. Brandon had insurance, so we were able to get the stuff back. I remember the cars all were like, wow. They started to slow down because our musical equipment was all over the highway. So we all had to go out and quickly pick stuff up and salvage CDs. And then the Minnesota Department of Transportation came and the cops came and it was a whole thing.
We missed our show, the next show.
It's one of the only shows we ever missed.
Yeah,
It was Iowa, right? We had to cancel.
Yeah, and we wound up making the next one. I think we had very limited stuff there though too, and then finally got everything back. But yeah,
the tour didn't stop, and luckily we all lived, and it was just like
we hit a deer in
Portland.
Yeah,
Damien hit a deer. Oh no, someone hit a deer.
Yeah, someone did. I don't know. Was it Brandon? It might have been. I don't know. That was funny.
Whoever was driving the deer ran in front and he swerved and hit it, but it would have gone through the windshield.
Yeah.
On this mountain. I had a similar thing in Baltimore with I Fight Dragons this year. A deer came out and I swerved around it and it ran right in the car next to me. And I saw the car skid over.
Oh, jeez. Have you had any accidents on tour since like anything like that?
Here's a crazy story. We were on the Warped Tour in 2015, I think. Yeah, 2015. We were leaving Salt Lake City and some freaking kid on an overpass threw a water balloon full of ice through our windshield of the tour bus. And we had to pull over. There was glass and like ice shreds and water balloon stuff all over the bus. And if it had been like 1 inch to the left, our bus driver they said it would have blinded him. We would have flipped the bus. So we don't know who that kid was, and the cops tried to find him. But like that was not a good prank. Yeah. I mean, I guess it was a good prank in that he got us, but we had to get all our stuff out. And for the Denver show, we didn't have our merch. I didn't have my contacts. It was like, but I thought when I was like grumbling about like how we didn't have our equipment. We had our lives.
Yeah.
Touring is the danger of touring is, and being on the road is, if you're on the road 1,000,000 miles, 0.001% chance of something happening is a real messed up percentage.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. It's the law of averages.
Had you ever had any more accidents on tour for you?
No. Those were just the ones that stood out to me. Yeah, even on like the when we went the tour with Chris, that was uneventful. I mean but so we might have got out of the way early. Statistically, we may have just gone ahead and we paid our dues to to the spam god, or to your god in your case.
But Bryce, we never let anyone would drive inebriated or messed up. Like,
no,
we're always careful about that. I guess on that tour they didn't let either of us drive.
No, I didn't really want to drive.
Driving a trailer sucks.
I hate driving, so like it wasn't even about it.
What's interesting is like all the years I've done touring is whenever I go to Canada, someone in the crew has a DUI, either on the bus crew, and then it's 3 hours of crap trying to get into Canada.
That's right.
For the first time a few years ago, I was with Cuckoo Kangaroo and no one had any DUIs, and we just drove in. I'm like, I had no idea this was so possible.
Yeah, I don't have a DUI or anything like that. Yeah, every time I've been to Canada, it's just like, welcome to Canada. Like, all right, cool, thanks.
Touring, they don't want people in there who are going to be dangerous drivers. So touring is interesting because you sacrifice a lot. Did you like being on the road, or did you like miss your friends and family?
So I get the itch every once in a while to go back out, and it's like, because I see my homies, I see you, I see random. Dual Core just did it, Chris does it. The one-off stuff always was. It's just easier for me and everything.
And you make more.
Yeah, you make more.
Yeah.
But the touring, it's just that I know that there's people in like, Billings, Montana and Pocatello, Idaho. They're just like, when are you going to come to my town? It's like, probably never. Like if I don't go on tour. Yeah. So I do miss being on tour. One of the biggest factors was, my daughter, that's why I remember Warped Tour. Like I wanted to do Warped Tour, but that's a whole summer. It like really takes forever. And so RIP Warped Tour, but it would have taken away from my time, with her, and that's more precious, I think. But
and she's in high school now, right?
She's 15, yeah, she's a sophomore.
God.
But yeah, the touring I miss, like, because we bro down, you really connect with people, and like,
we would always be up late, like you and I. We were like brothers. We'd always make each other laugh so hard. And Sturgis Frontalot's drummer was not having us like in the hotel, like laughing and joking until 3 or 4 in the morning.
God damn it, I'm trying to get some sleep.
And so we'd get kicked out to the hotel lobby.
Yep.
So remember once. This is a funny story. I wonder if you remember this. We were like in New Orleans or something. We were in the lobby, and this guy comes in looking for a room, and they're sold out. And so we tried to be heroes, and we bring him all these muffins from the cereal bar. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I remember that.
And he brings it to his wife, and she was like mad because there was like the muffins weren't enough, and he was like yelling at her. And we're like, well, we just escalated the situation.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Stuff like that. Like we were both like reckless but it was all in good fun. I think in your 20s, you're supposed to be like annoyed, grumpy musicians in their 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
Sturgis is not the only guy we pissed off, by the way.
No. I think we just did it to everybody. But we just love. And the thing I loved about going on tour with you was that we would always take those side missions, like, oh, let's go see the Liberty Bell, or
yeah,
oh, let's go do that. You're always about the historical stuff. And there's a lot of.
You had energy to come do that with me, which I loved.
Yeah, I loved it because we get to take in the city and the culture and see some stuff around there. So that was an awesome experience. You've been to every state in the United States, and you've kind of seen, the different places to offer. And so it's like dine-ins and dives. We had that whole experience, which that was amazing.
And I remember it was fun. Like that tour specifically, it would be like kids waiting to see us play. It would be like some art space that was a PA was brought in. People were playing Magic on the ground, Magic the Gathering. Like I toured with all the punk bands and ska bands and pop punk bands and like other rappers. And it was seeing that this was really a movement, and that was cool.
That's super cool. Yeah.
And the Digital Gangster, your friends, your hacker friends who came, I'd learned from them, and they caused mischief.
Oh, they were out of their minds. Yeah. We were always just like renting penthouse hotels and like getting crazy. Do you want to know something funny? Is December 1st, 10 years ago, G-Eazy opened for us in New Orleans.
That's true.
Yeah.
It was December 1st?
It was December 1st. And like that 10 years ago, G-Eazy was opening for Frontalot and me and you.
Well, I remember that story because
it was at the Howlin' Wolf.
God, you have a great memory.
I remember some things. Yeah.
And I remember he was at school there, and it was definitely not one of our most attended shows.
No, there was like 3 people there.
And the fact that he had like he had some friends there, so we were like, you can go last, you can close the show. And I remember the promoter said to him, and he goes, "That's what's up." Like he knew. And then for months he would on AIM ask, because we were going to do that tour with K-Flay the next winter, which we didn't for some reason, but he wanted to open that tour. He would have done it for free. I don't know if you knew this. So for months he would hit me on AIM. We were going to work on music.
That's crazy.
Imagine if that tour had happened. K-Flay and Jeezy opening for us.
Yeah. What if that's the reason their career did blow up? Like if they had gone on that tour, they'd still be like playing the 3 people album.
I remember Jeezy was like, he knew I was from Oakland, and he was very like friendly and nice, and like he was just a cool guy who had the looks and the style. And then I saw him on Warped Tour a few years after that, and he gave me a hug. He was like, "Yo, that show was crazy. I couldn't believe it."
Yeah, him and his homie, they were backstage. They were a trip.
The dude with the upside down, his wore his glasses upside down.
Yeah.
I remember he had this song. He's like, "I'm in the lab getting hyphy like Dexter."
Yeah.
And that was very like nerdcore.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because I never share that story, and like seeing his success has been cool.
It's great. I love people doing it. I love to see people just do it. And yeah, Flay's another girl. I hit her up every once in a while. I'm super proud of her. Like she's doing things, and I think like
by abandoning nerdcore, that was her way to be famous. She never wanted to be part of the scene, and like that was what made her a success, I guess.
I think what made her success is when she found her voice. Like she has this sound now that's so like unique or whatever. I'm trying to think of the proper word, but she really owns her sound type thing. And once she kind of hit her stride there, that's where people started to really gravitate towards her. I think is she found that voice. And props to her. Like whenever I hear about her, see people wear her shirts or
whatever. I'm always proud of her. I don't talk to her much. When she got her Grammy nomination, I emailed her and congratulated her. And like, I saw her a few years ago again on Warped Tour. Any of the feelings of missing her kind of turned into feelings of pride and appreciation for that talent, that like having Snoop Dogg on an old Dre record. Having her in the studio made that record special, and that's kind of why people, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like that record, people point to that and go, oh, this was one of her first commercial things.
Yeah. When an artist becomes super popular and then you have all these hipster fans that come out and say like, well, I was listening to her back then. It's that there's people that are just kind of compelled to dig into her older catalog, and they'll find, Single and Famous
stuff.
They'll find these, projects and stuff. And it's almost a totally different K-Flay, it's her getting her chops. It's her just working it out,
Networking. Her, and she, like Raheem, she would work twice as hard on things.
Yeah.
Like I remember when we were doing stuff, she wouldn't stop till it was done. And it's because she is a very hardworking person, and she knew what she wanted. And it's funny, man, because I feel like around 2009, 2010, when I did some incendiary blog posts about nerdcore, it became like, oh, this press wave that hit in 07, 08, it's not like a hockey stick of reputation. How did that feel when we all realized nerdcore was like kind of maybe a novelty and the mainstream press perspective?
Well, to me,
some real talk, by the way.
Yeah, real talk. So my initial experiences with the media have always been in the hacking stuff. And, I was on Fox and NBC and all that stuff when I was 17 type thing. And I watched how the media kind of, the news cycle sort of operates and works or whatever. And then with the music thing, like I saw it kind of, the wave that was catching or whatever, I wasn't... What was awesome was like when we did the G4 stuff, and then we were like a brand icon for this gamer television show.
For their
Game
bumpers.
Network. Yeah, we did their bumpers.
Who did that beat for that? Was that
was one of their beats that
really?
In-house type things. But that I would say good things came of it, but I never really expected press to completely embrace it. Like we wouldn't be on Hip Hop DX, and I mean, well, LOL Money
Raheem
was. Yeah, Raheem was. I was on World Star Hip Hop for LOL Money and stuff, but there's a barrier to entry to our music largely, and that's the thing, is that I would rather be like king of this small devoted mountain of people than like Drake or anything like that. That honestly, because you see like somebody put out a whack record and they're like, man, that's whack and we hate him now, and then sort of switch teams, it's very acrimonious. But what kind of was disappointing to me was that the nerdcore, like what happened is there's a bunch of artists that just started rapping on their Xbox headset, calling themselves nerdcore. Didn't know the trade. We're just making crappy music, and because it's crappy, it's nerdcore, and so it brought the quality level of everything down. That's where I think things were unfortunate, because
second generation, some people.
Yeah. Once that first, like the Blender article started hitting, and then you saw the Newsweek and everything, that mainstream press stuff, then people were just like, oh, I could do this too. And then, but they really could do that too, because the nerdcore culture is a very inclusive one.
And they should.
Yeah, I'm all about getting your art out there. But I mean, I never really relied on thinking that was going to be what made or break us.
And the cool thing about you that I always like respected and still do is how you were able to use your hacking chops and your computer skills to do music, make money off of it, enjoy it. But you didn't need your song to like get 1 million downloads to eat and feed your family.
Yeah.
That was smart, man. And like in the past few years, I do workshops at schools and I'm doing more education stuff and working on other stuff. But you diversified early and you were able to release this string of like incredible solo records that were like, you still kept yourself on the throne. And that was like, I always respected that and do respect it about you, that you didn't become salty about it, and it's like, cause you knew this was things come and go. And
music for me has always been largely just a hobby or whatever.
Yeah.
And that I'm super fortunate. And as you probably know this too, like there's millions of kids that would kill to be in our shoes. Like, even the level of fame that we're at or whatever I'm at, you definitely, bigger than me in that sense, but there's that I sometimes I feel bad because I do take it for granted, that the opportunity, the fact that we could tour, go to pretty much every city in the United States, and there be somebody that shows up. You know what I mean? Like that's something that's very unique to a very small group of people that are musicians. There's a lot of musicians in their bedroom that just can't get the listenership. They don't have the people following them around. They don't like that. So I know that I'm very fortunate in that regard that I still have the fan base and people that are listening, which is great.
And you also like, it's cool how you've become part of this discussion on the hacker culture and like your music that was in the Hacker Wars documentary. It was awesome, man. I'm like, I was watching. I was like, Bryce has songs in this. I'm not surprised. Like,
yeah, I scored that thing. Yeah,
that's a great documentary. Which for those you haven't seen, please check it out. How did that come about? That was awesome.
Well, I was super involved in the anonymous lulsec type stuff, and so yeah, Decepticon also he did.
Shout out to Decepticon.
Shout out to Decepticon. He did a lot of the instrumentals and stuff. But yeah, Dice and I have always been pretty much a producer pair. Actually, the first beat he ever did for me was on the Digital Gangster LP. It was for us,
and he was doing dubstep in like 08.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's pretty freaking crazy.
He was in he had just had that. He was really influenced by the UK drum and bass culture and stuff. So he already had his ear to the ground on that type of stuff. Been very prescient.
Wiltsey.
Brent Wiltsey. Yeah. Brian Wisely or Brent Wisely or Brett Wisely. That's what we used to call him. He still is that on Skype, Brett Wisely, because you used to think his name was Brett Wisely, and so I just started calling him Brett Wisely.
But it's Wiltsey.
It's Brent Wiltsey. Yeah.
And I called him Brett Wisely.
Yeah. And so we think.
Sorry,
that's hilarious.
Brent.
No, we think it's hilarious. It's great.
And then you did one of my favorite projects of yours is the Introducing Niels.
Yeah, that was
an epic.
Magnum hip opera, yeah, magnum opus. It was my favorite project, my most ambitious project. I was on this manic wave from like January of 2014 until September of that year, where I just felt like inspired, like touched by, some sort of divine force, and the output on that album was amazing, and I really liked it. But it's crazy just how much is like kind of coming true. It's meant to be like this science fiction type dystopian sort of thing. But
tell it briefly. Let's talk about like the story, because it's a very cool story.
Well, okay, it's done in this 80s aesthetic, and it's designed to be on a cassette tape. It's like 60 or 30 minutes per side. It's a 60-minute thing, kind of like old audiobooks. Please flip over to side B to continue. But it's just this journey about a hacker named Niels, who's named after Neil Stephenson, who is where I took YT from. Neil Stephenson wrote this book called Snow Crash, and YT is a character in that book.
I did not know that. I know that book.
She's a courier. Her name's YT, yours truly, YT. She goes by YT, but she's a courier. I'm a spammer, so it made sense.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So Neil Stephenson, he's a big cyberpunk author or whatever. But the story is just this hacker.
Did he do Snow Crash?
He did Snow Crash. Yeah. That's where it came from. So he did Snow Crash.
Yeah.
But the whole point of the album is it's just about, it follows this hacker named Niels, and he lives in this fictional city called San Sequestro. And it kind of just takes place and there's capital city, and that's the Washington DC or whatever, but it's like this blend of Miami and San Francisco, so it's got that 80s Miami Vice aesthetic. And I was gonna have the whole thing animated, and I got some of it animated, but the story just goes that he has this dream that he's gonna get raided, so he quits hacking and he finds a girlfriend. And then all the while they're basically outlawing encryption on the internet. And so he decides he can't stand idly by and wait anymore. So he develops a system, a mesh network, basically, that kind of becomes this off-net thing, and it starts getting downloads. The government declares it illegal, and then they go after him as an enemy of the state. But I won't reveal the twist or anything like that, but that's pretty much the album.
And I like how Beaker narrates it like a news piece.
So Beaker is the news guy, and
Beaker from Crayon Droids.
Yeah, Crayon Droids. Yeah. My friend Brian Mycon played Nice Guyman. His wife played my girlfriend in the album. So yeah, I just had a voice cast, and Elijah Lucien did the intro and outro and stuff.
It was very ambitious project, and it's a great record.
Super, yeah. It's like one of the things that disappoints me, and that's just probably pride, is that net neutrality has become this gigantic topic in the news, and on Reddit I see it, up on top, the pages all the time, and never once in the comments. Like, I'll just quickly try to search for my album, vainly looking to see if anybody even mentioned it, and no, so I feel like the problem with that album is it wound up reaching only the ears of people that were going to listen to it anyway, when I really would have liked a broader audience to listen to that one at least, and then kind of gotten a handle on what was going on with the culture, because now it's, there's a lot of fights on the net neutrality battleground, but here I was 4 years ago or something like that, saying all these things, predicting it. Yeah.
You've always been ahead of your time.
A little ahead of our time, but
don't you think, Bryce, though, a lot of the thing with net neutrality is like, if you're not on a major label or on a TV show that's being promoted like through a major network, I mean, is it true that they make it faster to listen to a major label album, or is it not related? Because I've heard conflicting things.
Well, think of it, it's more in, like where there's a dangerous intersection is how Twitter and Facebook, these are private companies, so they're allowed to, who was it? Who's the Alex Jones? Alex Jones got banned from these platforms, YouTube and stuff, because of his incendiary talk show. But he still releases things on his site, on his website, so his fans can go there and see it. And free speech is never meant to protect popular speech; it's to protect unpopular speech. But then Twitter is not beholden. They don't have to enforce First Amendment rights. They're a company. They're not the government, so they can take people off where they feel like. And Facebook, and so just because of their hugeness, they don't really owe the public any gratitude or anything like that. Even though they're the ones creating the content, you'll get these. If you have hate speech and Nazi stuff going on there, then whatever. Like, they're more than ready to take that off. But under net neutrality, you could have that. So if that happens, people could start blocking Alex Jones's site unless you pay a certain amount or whatever. So
ISPs could do that.
ISPs could do that. Start packaging internet. Like, here's your social media package. Like, here, if you wanted to use Snapchat and Instagram and this, and you want it to work faster, then we can use these things. But the internet should be free. Even the shitty neo-Nazi stuff really should have a place on the internet, just because, that's the thing, is it can be this snowball effect. No one has to read those sites if they don't want to. I mean, you have the crazies that are going there and doing it, whatever, but the net should be neutral. It should have this, for the people, by the people type thing. And some people are saying stupid things. Let them say stupid things in their own corner of the internet, and, don't police them. So
that's interesting. So but it's the responsibility of portals then to be like hate speech or like gore or like inappropriate
child porn,
horrible stuff that shouldn't have a voice. I mean, that's a question, right? Because if you were to censor a neo-Nazi person, that is maybe stifling his or her rights, but at the same time, it's maybe it's a good thing. I don't know.
The ACLU has been on fighting for the KKK. They've been on record. They fought for the ACLU has been very good about defending their
rights to
people's right to just say things. I mean, people do not have a right not to be offended. You can offend people all day long. Sticks and stones, don't incite hate, don't incite riots, don't incite hate speech, don't call for the killing of all Jews and blacks and all this. Those things are obviously, haram, but in the sense of people, if Alex Jones wants to make up crazy theories about Sandy Hook being
You're saying that's his First Amendment right.
That's his First Amendment right. He can't do it on Twitter. He can't do it on Facebook. Those are private companies. But if he wants to do it on alexjones.com and he can find a web host that's going to host him and stuff like that, he should be able to do it. So
yeah. Here's a question, though. If saying that hateful stuff, what if it puts poison in people's minds to go out and kill someone because they don't like their religion? Right? Where do you put the ownership in it? And where do companies, and how does net neutrality tie into that? Trying to make sure we have a brighter future. That's what I wonder.
Well, you run into a dystopia where it's this groupthink type mentality where the progression, of, let's say, homosexual rights or black rights or trans rights, or any of these things that have become topics, and as a society we've become infinitely more progressive on something that maybe, like you and I earlier, have, we didn't we never saw a problem with, but the rest of the world at large did. And then we've seen this sort of move in a positive direction. That's just because it aligns with our belief system and we think it's right. And that's where I said that chaotic neutral way back, that I'm going to impose my will on it that way. But if people are going to be swayed by Nazi rhetoric, they're probably susceptible to suggestion anyway. So by cutting them off, by silencing these people and not giving them an option or whatever, that is going to make a conspiracy nut think like, oh, the message must be true. Like they're trying to suppress it. The Illuminati's behind this type thing. So, and which I'm sure Alex Jones is already sort of saying, just the stuff he says,
he's just crazy,
inspires the wrong people. Yeah. So, but I do think that should be perfectly allowed. Like, the people that are crazy, the people that are shooting schools up and everything like that are not mentally stable to begin with. I mean, you don't have mental stability. That doesn't even enter your mind type thing. So these people they're not being really radicalized just because of this, what was it? Catcher in the Rye is why Mark Chapman shot John Lennon or whatever. So there's just, I mean, you're going to, the mental illness thing just needs to get separated from the message and stuff. And
it's like blaming a Judas Priest record on someone killing themselves.
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting time because I like to think we have a brighter future. I like to think we have the tools if we, the next generation it's a better world. Like I'm looking at your SpaceX bags over there. Like there's people who are in the tech world who are trying to make this a better place.
Oh yeah.
And maybe Twitter, I feel like Twitter and Facebook clamping down on that stuff is a good step forward. I mean, it is, I don't know, being private. You just hope there's ethical philosopher kings who are running these institutions.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's hardly the case. What happens is you could have Mr. Rogers himself running Facebook and stuff, and he might have the most benevolent, amazing intentions, but then he dies and he's replaced by Pol Pot or something like that. And you don't, that all that power and all that stuff, the surveillance ability and everything like that, the tools of Facebook, like once they change custodianship, it becomes a beast, another beast entirely. So the reason I think that the internet needs that, just that level playing field where everybody can talk and say what they want on it
and disagree,
and you can disagree with people and all that stuff, and you can troll and everything. Like it creates a discourse that is healthy for humanity. So
would you consider yourself a libertarian?
I would consider myself a libertarian mostly. Like I'm kind of an anarcho-capitalist, but I have
explain what that means, like that fusion of ideas. I'm just curious.
Well, okay, so I totally believe in meritocracy, and I believe in what's known as equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. So I'm not, so the socialist pieces of like where, you want to shoehorn in minorities and women into a position or something just by the virtue of the color of skin or sexuality, their gender or whatever, that is not a good way to do things. That people should get into places based on their ability or whatever. I believe that governance is something that can be done. The government should not be this giant bureaucratic entity where there's too much stuff. I mean, basically libertarians, believe that infrastructure, the law, a way of facilitating commerce, defense, those are the things that we really should focus on, as a government. The government really shouldn't be running your life, as it were. However, I also have seen technology at the rapid rate that it's growing. If you look at, and I think there's a number of entrepreneurs, I think even Elon Musk and stuff has kind of agreed with this, but as we see like self-driving cars, if they become more of a reality, if you think about how many people are out there right now driving buses, driving trucks, freight trucks, people driving the Lyfts and Ubers and,
Yeah.
and all that. Once you automate cars, all those people are going to be dumped onto the workforce with no way to earn a living. You know, they've been driving cab for 40 years or something, and then that's all they know. You know, there's this, like, I'm sure the guy who made horseshoes like 200 years ago was the man. Like, everyone's like, oh, dude, you got to go to, but how many horseshoe makers do you know? Like, now, like, oh, I make horseshoes. What do you do for a living? So that just this obsolescence of technology it's getting so rapid that we're going to need to find a way. So this universal basic income concept or whatever, I'm starting to kind of, it's a little bit different to, you know, extrapolate as what is so far is needed. But I think it's important for us to take care of those that, you know, are going to be, otherwise there'll be riots in the streets, and it doesn't matter how rich you are, like, your house is going to get burned down and you're going to be killed because people are just not going to be able to have any job, any way to feed their families and stuff. So, I
mean, it's this idea of, you know, I always saw what works about the American system is John Locke's idea of originally life, liberty, and the pursuit of property, which got remixed as the pursuit of happiness. And then Rousseau talking about how, and Thomas Hobbes about how you have this social contract where if government can protect you, you must abide by its rules, right? Like Hobbes talking about how life is nasty, brutish, and short, and Rousseau talking about how, like, you make a deal with society to protect you and your interests if you're able to obey by its rules. And that's why the whole civil disobedience thing comes from, is this idea, like, if you're not being protected, or if government is not advancing your interests. And I think, like, going back to this, what you're talking about, like the meritocracy thing, what if someone is, I mean, if someone has a bias who's hiring people, like a racist person in Alabama, the government can be helpful to try to, like, make sure that he isn't, theoretically, that an African-American person would get hired on their skill to help balance out someone's, like, biases, right? Like, that's where the good comes in.
Yeah, I'm not totally decrying the system. That I do think it has a place, but it's popular. The identity politics, it becomes very difficult because even people like that would identify with these substrata, you know, for instance, I think at Stanford, I believe it's Stanford, where they're not taking Asian students as much, you know, even though Asians, whatever you want to make a stereotype, that they're smart and that, like, their grades are amazing, but, like, they actually have a cap on how many Asians that they're taking.
I hadn't heard about that.
I think this is Stanford. It's Stanford or Harvard. So whoever's on the podcast listening, like, don't quote me, but it's just a prestigious university where they found out that they actually have an anti-Asian, you know, because otherwise the body would be all Asians if it was, you know, meritocracy or mostly comprised of this type of thing. So you see this kind of, like, where affirmative action lies and how it benefits people, that the majority of people that I talk to, especially in the STEM field, you know, that are of color or whatever, you know, they want to know that they got their position based on the fact that they're good at what they do, not because, you know, of their color, their skin, or whatever. That's no way anybody wants to be judged.
Sure.
So it's a little bit skewed. But the thing is that we need to be that. For instance, if they don't have the opportunity to learn these things, if they don't have the opportunity to, like, even know that they like computers or whatever, not exposed to that sort of thing, we do need to be better as a society of getting people to understand the types of things that are out there and what people can really be doing with
empowering
everyone. Yeah.
And I guess I've always thought affirmative action was a good thing because I think that there's a lot of power structures and hegemony that, you know, people are disenfranchised, and, like, things can happen where, you know, you need to equal the playing field. And how the civil rights of the 60s and everything, like, they said that without the government working to, like, with Brown versus the Board of Education and in specific instances, the government had to step in and be like, this is right. And thank goodness people like Kennedy and Johnson had good morals.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? So I feel you though, that, like, you don't, it's important that people earn their place, but it's also, there are dark power structures, like power structures that keep things at the status quo as they are, and that sucks. And but
the institutional racism or whatever.
Yeah, that you need to fight that. Right?
So that I would say within the next couple of generations of people, because, like, my girlfriend now she's Puerto Rican, black, and she's she's a software developer, so, I mean, but she's like she's a great example of somebody who does not want a position just because she's a woman or because she's Puerto Rican or black or any of that stuff. She wants to know that she got the position based on the fact that she knows what she's doing.
Sure, yeah.
And so I said, and again, she doesn't speak for all Boricuas or all, African Americans or any of that stuff. But in that sense, like the whole thing about affirmative action is that there's going to be, like, generationally, a few years down the line since the invention of boats, I mean, we've sort of become more homogenized as a culture. Like me, I'm Chinese, Hawaiian, American Indian, Irish. Like I have just this, I'm American. I'm an amalgamation of all these different races that, my daughter, could marry somebody that's, I don't know, Chinese, Japanese, whatever. You'll start to see that as more interracial marriage kind of comes in,
race will fade away.
Race will start to fade away more and more and more. And you'll just basically be able to reach out and touch somebody that's of a different race. So it becomes this thing where it's a problem that's going to work itself out. I think that affirmative action is something that really has its importance and its place today and now. But I don't think that exposing, like, I think that women are very well aware of the STEM fields. I don't think that it's something that's completely out to them. And so there's these campaigns to basically shoehorn people into positions that they may not even want is a bad way to fill these things. You need, like, I'm passionate about computers.
Yeah.
My girl's passionate about computers. Like, you shouldn't just be placed or forced to come and be something that you're not.
My wife is a science teacher, and I've learned a lot about feminism and stuff from her, and it's very interesting, like, having these conversations with her. And she always talks about how when her students, like especially young girl students, are really into science, how that really inspires her.
The shirt I have on is great. It's Grace Hopper Has a Posse. And do you know who Grace Hopper is?
No, but I like that shirt.
She's the one who, like, apocryphally did the term bug. She's the one who, like, computer bug.
Oh, okay.
She's one of the four mothers of the computer science, and she was an admiral in the Navy.
Yeah.
There was a time, when all the able-bodied men were out fighting at war, all the computers were all run by women. Computer programmers were all women. I mean, all these earliest computers, the programming was done, it was the STEM fields where the computer field was completely dominated by women.
Yeah.
And
Hidden Figures. Have you seen that movie? About the NASA women mathematicians who helped launch, like, the first.
Yeah, there was one. She's got a center named after her, but she basically was more accurate. She was so accurate with her calculations that they would check the computer against her.
That's awesome.
She was the one that was the checks and balances for the computer. So that it is this thing that I believe that women have obviously a disposition, a predisposition to be good at these types of things. If it's something they want to be doing, it's something we shouldn't be exclusionary of. I encourage and want, more people in it, but I don't want people to be forced into it or anything like that. Yeah. People should follow their passions or whatever.
And you being a dad with having a daughter, you have I bet you must imagine, like, ways you can leave a better world for her. And
yeah, I think having kids, like, changes your, the selfishness aspect of, how you look at the world. But, my daughter has no interest in programming computers. She thinks it's boring. She likes computer games, but, it's just not her way. And the same way, my dad would try to, like, force me to play football or something.
Everyone's different.
Yeah, everyone's different. And so I don't push her to learn computer programming. If she doesn't want to, she doesn't want to, but she knows her way around one. But yeah, I mean, I just want a world where, again, that everyone has the opportunity to do what they want to do, and but you shouldn't just be given it because you are this or because you're that or whatever.
It's interesting. Well, it's some very, like, relevant, important topics. I'm glad we can talk about this, man, because I know we don't always agree on everything, but we do agree on some things. Getting close to wrapping it up, I wanted to ask you this. What would you say? This is such a broad question. This might annoy some people, but what would you say are the top 5 nerdcore rap albums? And of course, I know Digital Gangster or your albums or whatever. We can't include anything. We might be able to be a guest on it, but nothing like has been a YTCracker or an MC Lars or an MC Lars and YTCracker album.
I can't even name 5 nerdcore albums.
Well, how about 5? Okay. How about... well, let me give you mine. Can I give you mine?
Yeah, give me yours.
I would say Frontalot's Secrets from the Future.
That was a good album. Yeah.
Mega Ran's RNMDM.
I didn't listen to that.
2014. I think that's great.
But yeah, the hat I have. But I like I said, I listened to songs from all these things. Sure. But
I think Chris.
I'm a bad friend.
Chris is what's the one with Eating Isn't Cheating? That
Eating
EP.
isn't cheating. Is it Eating Ain't Cheating?
Maybe Eating Ain't Cheating.
Yeah. Eating's not cheating. Yeah, I forgot.
I can list yours. I would say the Nerd Rap Entertainment System. And what am I gonna say for my 5th? This is big. I mean, I don't know. I always felt like Adam Warrock had some great stuff.
Adam Warrock was great too. Yeah.
Is This Thing Human or something? That's one of his. That's a good one. I like. Did you talk to him? Because he's come up a lot on this podcast.
One of the guys I miss a lot that I used to hang out with a lot is Dr. Awkward. Like,
he's done good, right?
He's been working for the company that makes Rocket League.
Yeah,
I can't think of what they're called now. It's going to kill me. But yeah, Zealous One was amazing, and then he hung up the Spurs and he just quit rapping. I miss. There's a lot of people from back then that I miss.
And Schaefer's Sick Passenger is another great record.
Schaefer.
There's too many good ones.
Yeah, Schaefer's got a lot of good stuff though.
Yeah.
He's the best live act I think out of all of us. Like he's as far as the one man, do the thing. Like he's so theatrical. Like, he's amazing.
Hawking's Brief History Rhyme. Yeah,
that's actually probably a seminal classic. I think people probably know that album more than they know even the existence of nerdcore. Like his MC Hawking it was very meme. Yeah, for its time.
These things like Magfest and PAX and South by Southwest, these things that keep us seeing each other, I hope continue.
Yeah, definitely. My buddy Paul is starting to throw this festival called Play. It's kind of a music and gaming festival. He comes from the electronic music world. He did the Dayglow parties, paint parties. They were called Life in Color eventually, but yeah, he's starting a festival. And again, he's the owner of like a giant club in space and a client club in Miami called Space.
Yeah.
And so, but he's throwing his hat in the ring, and so that's gonna be super impressive. But it's good to be part of this. Yeah, like this wave or whatever, that our names are etched on the cave walls, as it were. So if anyone needs to come and like kind of see like where a lot of this shit sprung from, they can reference those.
And our albums and our collaborations kind of paint these stories of our lives. And for me, it's like, the 20s were an interesting time, and I'm so thankful I spent my 20s, like much of my 20s with you. And
yeah, we had a great time.
We get a lot of people asking us when we're going to do a second Digital Gangster LP, and I think we could make it a phenomenal record. What are your thoughts on this, YTCracker?
I agree. I just have to shift gears into music guy, and that's the thing. It doesn't happen that often. Because I'm more just. I think Frontalot was always trying to do an album a year or something.
Then that changed.
Yeah, that I'm like kind of the same. I did released an album last year that was pretty sizable. It was just a collection of beats. It was like 20 tracks, something like that. But it was a collection of B-sides and old stuff. But I just released singles on SoundCloud and stuff now.
Yeah, you get a lot of plays.
Yeah, I do all right.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, people like me.
But
I think.
That idea of us spending a week in San Francisco recording an album is to schedule that. It would have to be. What was special about Digital Gangster is we were in one place, and I was so ready to make a record because I'd been trying to please label people and managers when I was doing Robot Kills, that like to be able to have no barrier.
Yeah.
And just my friend and our collabs, and Doc Pop sent us a bunch of beats.
Yeah, he did do that. That was nice of him.
It would have to be done over email, and I wonder if that would I don't know if it would be
the same.
Fresh. I don't know. It could be good.
I hate New York, but if I have to go out there to record it, I will.
How many days do you think it would take us?
I think we might be able to do the week thing again. I mean, that's plausible.
That's awesome.
It's just getting in that mind frame, that head space. It's easy.
And we wrote a lot of it there, didn't we? We had the concepts. Well, no, actually, we wrote probably 9. We had like the one song we'd written, which I want to end with, was Oneonta. We'd written that before. Remember that song?
Yeah, that song was real cool.
That song was
I used to love doing that live. That song live was so awesome.
Bryce, thank you for your time today. This is very cool, and I think that people, we we haven't done stuff together for a while, but people always remember like our work, and it's cool that we've remained friends.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a pleasure to see you, and yeah, I don't know, like it's been awesome, like watching you, like still. You look great, by the way. Like obviously,
Thank you.
yeah.
You too, man.
So it's been awesome to see you just sort of maintain, like you have been a professional musician for quite a while now. The longevity is really insane. You know, there's a lot of people like Weird Al, you know, I mean, his career's outlasted a lot of the artists that he's parodied and stuff. And I think that's one thing about fan bases that we share is that they're awesome. They're very fervent. They're super, super dedicated. And as long as we can maintain that, you know, we might be at the nursing home, you know, spitting out some old stuff, provided we don't get dementia or something.
That's the dream, man. And that's like, thank you for saying those kind things. And I've always kind of like, you know, thought of us as this version of, definitely not as canonized and definitely like more underground, but the Beat Generation. We're all kind of connected. We've all inspired each other, and we all kind of keep checking on each other.
Yeah,
and I hope that we, you know, those guys all, like Ginsberg and them, they kept putting stuff out till they died, and I hope we can keep rocking till we're down in the ground.
Well, not dying of like liver failure or being like Charles Bukowski and like him beating women all the time. Let's keep that out of it.
Us, no.
Yeah, it's not us. Not the Beat Generation. We don't be that type of.
Burroughs, you know, he really preserved himself with heroin.
Yeah.
So
and you know, I'm a fan of opiates. So,
Heyo.
that'll be me one day. Yeah. When I finally like start to like needles or something, then heroin will be my next drug.
On that topic, you know, it's interesting, man, that I don't know if you knew this about me. I've been sober like 3 years, and seeing you though maintain as a doing what you want recreationally. You never were like you always had it. No one would know about your recreational activities.
No, I don't present myself as a drug addict or anything. I don't think so, but I think that drugs are a necessary part of life in some senses. The experiences that you gain from using them are important, but you know, you don't let yourself get strung out. I've always said, never let science make you history. And I call drugs science. So yeah, there's a time and place, and you know, you don't. Again, like if you have to live well, you know, you don't want to be selling everything you own for the drugs you want to do, and never let the drugs, you know, do you type stuff. So
I remember. Well, on being on tour, like on days when I just had never been in a hotel with someone who had to sleep with a hairdryer in his pants on hot.
Yeah.
What was that? Because you were cold.
Yeah, the heat
from the oxys.
No, I just call it a heat gun. I love.
You didn't burn your balls?
No, I don't put it down my pants. It's just on my feet or something like that. Like I just use it as a space heater. Is all I do with the.
And it would be all night.
Yeah, Frontalot hated that.
Why? Well, people were afraid you're gonna burn down the hotel room.
Nah, I mean it's a hairdryer. I mean, I guess you could, but. Whatever. Yeah, I do it here in this house. Like I just grab my heat gun sometimes. It's hot air feels good. What am I gonna say?
Yeah, that's these days you do, people hire you to help with security for their apps and stuff.
Yeah, I have my security firm that's doing its thing. I do some stuff in the bug bounty scene, which is like it's a relatively new concept, but what it is that companies, they'll allocate a budget and then they just have a bunch of freelance hackers that are hacking their site, and then depending on the severity and the impact of the bugs that you find, like security flaws, then they just give you money. So it's a good way to earn, you know, extra cash or a living if you're dedicated to it. But I just kind of play with it.
That sounds fun.
And it's super
Doesn't
cool.
Dual Core do that, David?
David does. David works for a big company. He's always just been work for a big company guy. I've always been, you know, hustle as much as I can. I worked for Grindr for a while as their CISO. And the reason I got involved with them was because they're, as a global company, their Grindr is located in a lot of countries where being gay is illegal. Like they'll stone you to death or they'll kill you like for being gay. And so they were using Grindr to entrap gay people and then arrest them and stuff.
That's horrible.
Yeah, so I got to develop systems to stop that type of thing, and or at least
you're like doing social justice work.
Yeah, but that's what I said. It's just so with
Yes,
me.
you are, YTCracker.
Yeah, but with me, it's just fun to fuck with governments. Can I say the F word?
Sure, yeah. You
Okay,
can
yeah.
say,
All right. Well, yeah. It's for me. It's fun to fuck with state governments and stuff like that. Like, but not be working for the government. Like,
You know, one of my funniest memories of our tour was we had projections during our set, and we had one video where I think it was Oneonta, where we had these big, burly, handsome men making out. It's
Oh,
like,
yeah,
it's like a celebration of.
no, that's what we put it
We're
behind.
celebrating the love between two men.
we put that behind Frontalot. I forgot about that.
we put it behind
Yeah.
during Frontalot's verse because it was a song about friendship and love, and we had these guys. But it wasn't like X-rated. It was just guys showing love for each other.
But Frontalot didn't know. So yeah, like during his verse, it was projecting like these two big burly like bears making out, and like Frontalot's rapping, and everyone's like laughing.
No,
And
people were like, "Oh,
yeah."
and he thought he was
His
so
raps
dope.
were so good, but really it's because. Oh my God! I forgot.
You remember this? And
That
I
was
remember,
so
I remember when we were in Staten Island, we were editing the videos. You and I just laughed for like 20 minutes. I don't think I ever laughed so hard.
That was good. That was so funny.
And then by the third show, Damien was like, "If you don't change that video, I'm not going to do that song." So so we ended up changing it.
Dude, oh my God, I totally forgot about that. We knew that if he was rapping on stage and everyone's like, oh, he'd be like, he's gonna think he's just the sickest rapper ever. And really,
I remember we were in Jersey or something, and then like he turns around and he does a double take, and he was so mad at us. He was so mad at us. I'm sorry, Damien.
Yeah, sorry, Damien.
We talked about this last year about how he was still mad.
God, that was so funny. Oh my God, I totally forgot about that. Oh, dude.
Our videos, we had so much. Yeah, we put a lot into them.
Yeah, those are fun.
Anyway, that was a funny one.
Oh my God.
Bryce, so you're on Real YTCracker on Twitter?
Yeah, Real YTCracker on Twitter. It's got a blue check mark, so it's easy to find.
Holler.
Then Facebook /YTCracker, GitHub /Real YTCracker, SoundCloud is YTCracker.
What's GitHub? I'm sound ignorant asking. What is that?
GitHub is a software repository. It's
Okay.
where you upload your open source project and stuff. I was just really joking. No one's gonna go to my GitHub, but
Now they are.
Yeah, SoundCloud.
And are you YTCracker.com?
I am YTCracker.com. Yep.
So that's when Twitter shuts you down. You can still.
Yeah, you can still. I still do my racist rants on YTCracker.com if you need to see them.
No, you don't. You don't.
Yeah.
You don't. Would you have any music coming out?
So actually, yes, I'm starting to like. There's a couple things I'm kicking around. Like I'm gonna get back in. It just after Neil's, it was really like that expended a lot of energy, a lot of mental energy, and you know I do want to make a sequel to it, but the political climate I would say has to be right for me to do it. So I'm gonna wait for another election or something. But other than that, yeah, I'm always putting out little singles and stuff. But there are a few things my gears are spinning. So
Aren't you glad we have a new election coming up?
yeah. This has just been surreal for me. Like,
Yeah.
I'd never thought. I don't know.
For all of us.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be funny if it wasn't. So
If it wasn't surreal, there'd be something wrong with us.
yeah,
Yeah.
but that's the people in general are fucking cool. Like everybody's tight. So
People have good in them.
Yeah,
And that's what we have to find.
So-
And I like we said earlier about your karma find you, right? Like
Yeah.
yours. Something can't permanently derail you if you've done a lot of good things and I don't know.
well, that's the other thing is like with the Me Too movement. I don't mean to like bring that on, but like there are these things like where, I mean, it's amazing that these things are coming to light and stuff, but you know, if let's say a man is like, when do people atone for their sins? Like when is Louis C.K. gonna be able to come back to comedy, you know, for what he's done and everything? And then when they're digging up old tweets, you know, that from when a kid is 16 and then using it to be mad at him for getting the Heisman Trophy, we need to have some sort of because people do change and they do get better and they do change their minds. And so we need to give people paths to redemption, you know, if they need it. So the internet, as much as it never forgets, like, you know, we need to be cognizant of the fact that people do change. I've changed, you've changed, everybody's had
Yeah, and to remember to teach the next generation to be careful and what they say and what they do, and our generation didn't realize this stuff would follow us.
Yeah.
So, but that is no way excuse it. It just means we all have to be a little more aware of evolving together, right?
Totally, absolutely.
These are things we could talk about on a album without trying to talk about them in a very objective, fair way. I feel like if we were both agreeing, we could bring dialogue. You know, if you and I both agreed about a topic, it would be an interesting perspective.
I think even if we went about the things we disagree on, and like a debate format might even be more intriguing because then people get two sides of the argument. So
there's a great song on Frontalot's new record called "Bad Nerd," I think, something like that, and it's about how the internet can be used for good, and the trolls and all that. We don't have time for them, anyway. It's a good song.
It's a vocal minority though, so
it's a vocal minority. Yeah. YTCracker, this has been tight.
Hell yeah, dude.
But look, y'all will have 45 seconds. Please stop when I tell you, or else you will be disqualified. All right, let's get it going. We're gonna start things off with your boy right here.
I'm sitting by myself in Oneonta, New York, typing rhymes on my MacBook, getting to work. I put my headphones on and I hide behind the screen because the world is mercurial, the world is mean. Sick of all these boring people, so I'm in the fast lane, writing rhyme after rhyme. I hide inside the gigs of the music in the data shot, calling MySpace, ball peace world. I'll see you later. I'm sitting by myself in the Springs, Colorado. Well, not alone with my shadow. I battle thoughts from the cattle, so I dig in my saddle. Deflect a mess with my Atari paddle. Control the flow, these bits is second nature. Paper what I make by pushing data. Thank the maker, blow out like a circuit breaker. Check my Facebook, man, I'll see you later. By myself in Oneonta, New York, typing rhymes on my MacBook, getting to work. I put my headphones on and get lost in the web. I never like reality, I'll stay in mine instead. I'm over all the boring, dejected, bitter people who run to their dealers, their troughs and their steeples. I reign supreme in my rhythmic paradise. I kill the demon with my lyrics and it feels very nice. Hip-hop integration, the I generation. When tech, I hit the streets from the net. Now this net vet, get props and respect. Cause I knew what I was doing in the 80s. Bet the computer, save hip-hop, made hip-hop, played hip-hop, so I return the favor. Tell them how computers are the savior. Like hip-hop gave us this gift, the greater. I studied hip-hop cause I had to, I had no choice. I needed an identity, I needed a voice. So I found my salvation in the Run DMC, the KRS, Nas, and Public Enemy. You can take the rapper out the British punk show, but you can't take the punk show out the rapper, yo. So I'm DIY till I die. This is why when I try, you'll probably see me smiling when you see me flying straight on by. I'm sitting by myself in that San Francisco. Well, not alone, cause I'm about to spit flows with my friend Lars that I met cause of music. And if I wasn't rapping, then I feel abused. Kid, since I found music, I never had solitude. It will never beat on me or call me names. It will never cheat on me or play those games. It will always be loyal and never change. Kicking with the rondo, spitting in the studio, blocking out the world when I'm feeling kinda moody, yo. Getting into paradise, I'm the nerdy coolio, cause I got a gift and I feel it is my duty, yo. Got the fame now, came up from done luck, and they all know I'm the ish like 2 girls, 1 cup. They all know that I'm styling on the interweb, and they all press and repeat just to hear what I said. I'm the best, man, I did it. And they all press and repeat just to hear what I said. I'm the best, man, I did it. And they all press and repeat just to hear what I said.
Now I'm sitting alone, not the stone's throw from the bone show that I don't seek to star in. Already went too far in that direction. A good chunk of lifespan spent. Rap for half of it, hadn't had an epiphany yet. If I do, it's on set. Getting attributed to this though. Sitting by myself in San Luis Obispo, trying to thumb a ride to the castle keep, where the rich man dwelled with his cash piled deep, where his crimes wouldn't leap from obscurity to prominence. Pen a rhyme while I hitchhike, the beat's ominous. Why Frontalot? Maybe don't get picked up in the middle of a lyric you don't want to interrupt as you fly past. Isn't it holograms, digital cars and trucks are simulated by the quizzical GPU, who wonders why the threads would intermingle the roadside and the rhyming, the B-sides and the single.
Alright, that was a good freestyle battle, but you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna have to give it to my vote. I'm gonna have to give it to Eli, cause he really represents, he stepped up, even though he messed up a couple times, he stepped up.
Oh, this your boy J-Dub, and I'm gonna have to go with my boy Emmy, because he held it down. He didn't have no mistakes, you know what I'm saying? He went straight off the brain, he held it down. Let's go.
Yeah, this A14, of course. But yeah, both of them did good, but I give it to Emmy, because he did great.
Wow. That was a great interview. Thank you, YTCracker. Covered a lot of territory, had a lot of laughs, and yeah, it was great. So be sure to check out next week on the podcast. I interviewed Joe Jack Talcum from the Dead Milkmen. What? Then the following week, it's with Rodney Anonymous from the Dead Milkmen. What? This is back-to-back Dead Milkmen flavor. I recorded those on the same day I recorded Adam and His Package. I had 3 Philadelphia podcasts. I took the bus up there and just went hard on the interviews. But they're great interviews because, you know, the Dead Milkmen are freaking legends. I worked with them on the Mr. Raven remix on the Edgar Allan Poe EP. I opened for them one Halloween, and they're amazing. If you've ever seen me in Philadelphia, you've probably seen Rodney Anonymous come on stage and rap Mr. Raven with me because there's no one like him. Joe Jack and him are very different, and that's why I wanted to record them on different occasions because Roddy's a little bit more loquacious. Joe Jack is a little more understated. And so I wanted to get their 2 perspectives on the history of Philadelphia punk rock and all that. So anyway, this has been your host, MC Lars. Please leave a review if you like the podcast. Please leave a review if you don't. And please check out the Patreon and check out the singles we're dropping for the Dewey Decibel System because the album is going to be out in less than a month. In a few weeks, the full album is out. We're releasing videos. We got a bunch of videos and a bunch of premieres coming up. So be sure to follow my Twitter at MC Lars and Megaran's at Megaran for information about the new releases. Thanks again to the listeners, and we'll see you next week with part 1 of my 2-part series on the Dead Milkmen. Yo, YTCracker, great episode. Thanks for being on. Peace. Oh, it's MC Lars. Bye.